Hi, my name's Drew. I'm one of the sales associates over at Galaxy Motors Colwood, and today I'm going to go over some of the safety warning lights that you may see on your dash. First off is the oil pressure light. Generally what that means is that your oil level's either too low or there's a bit of a malfunction with your pump. Now, all engines require proper lubrication. My dad always had a saying though, oil's cheap, engines aren't. And when you have something moving on average 3,000 revolutions per second or per minute, you want to make sure it's well lubricated. Next, we're going to go over the battery warning light. Battery warning light can mean two things. Either your battery doesn't have enough juice or your alternator's going. Now, you can often tell whether or not it's your alternator or the battery dying itself by what your voltmeter says. Now, that's not always on your dash anymore. A lot of modern systems don't have it readily available, but you can always tell what your alternator's putting out based on that gauge. Low fuel warning lights, pretty common, pretty straightforward. Vehicle's not going to go if it's got no juice, so stop by your local fuel supply and grab some more. Next, we're going to go with the braking system. When you see an exclamation mark, all red, surrounded by two brackets, that's supposed to represent a brake drum, but the reality is you have something seriously wrong with your vehicle, and I would take that to a shop immediately. Not something to mess around about. So, you may have seen the airbag warning light. It's this giant red circle next to a strapped-in passenger, and you really want to take care with that. Having that being damaged, driving around with that not working properly could cost you your life. Now, if you can only imagine how an airbag works, it's timing down to the millisecond. If a bag deflates too late, it's not going to be there to caress your head. Or inflates too early, you're going to have a cannonball going off against your head. Now, those systems are only effective if they're working properly. So if you see that, talk to your mechanic. Now, this is a funny one. If you ever see a little squirrely line, kind of like a piggy's tail, that's for glow plugs. You may be in a diesel, and if you don't know you're in a diesel, you may want to watch out what fuel you're putting into your vehicle. But that's there to indicate that the glow plugs, unlike spark plugs, need a little time to warm up to properly explode the diesel. Seatbelt warning lights. Seatbelt warning lights can mean a few different things. See, in often cases, your seatbelt system is directly linked to the airbag system. So when their computer doesn't recognize that you're sitting in a seat, it's not going to activate the airbag for you. And, well, you can just imagine how that would turn out. Traction control warning lights. Now, most people just overlook their automatic traction control. It's just a luxury that we've all kind of gotten used to. But when your traction control is not working properly, the engine doesn't know, or your drivetrain doesn't know what amount of power to put to each wheel. Now, if you were to hit the throttle, generally speaking, all power would get spread out between the four wheels. But with these ABS systems, the computer controls exactly how many foot-pounds of torque is going to each wheel. And that could cause major issues if you were in some kind of emergency scenario and your computer system wasn't reacting properly. Now, I can just leave that up to your imagination, but, if you don't have traction when you need it, that could be catastrophic. Next, I'd like to talk about a common but rarely seen light, the ABS warning light. Now, imagine, if you would, an emergency situation where you had to slam on your brakes, and one of your four brakes reacts differently than the rest. Locks up. What happens when you lock up and create more traction on one side of the vehicle? Well, the vehicle's now going to turn in that direction. If you were to have this happen in an emergency situation, or even, say, just passing Thetis Lake during a torrential downpour, there could be some catastrophic problems. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happens in Victoria. There's a lot of accidents going on. But I would be fair-pressed to say your ABS system might have something to do with it, or the lack thereof. Some older vehicles just don't have anti-lock brake systems, and when an emergency happens and you slam on the brakes, now you're just a stick on the ice, going wherever inertia's taking you. You let go of that brake, it's still locked up, and you're going wherever the last bit of juice pushed you. I hope that doesn't happen to everyone and anyone, but can't mess around with your brakes. Tire pressure warning light. Now, you've probably seen this quite often. It's an orange, looks like a tire from the profile, but it looks like a deflated tire with an exclamation point in it. Now, this can and can't mean a lot. See, if you have a front-wheel drive vehicle, it's not the end of the world. 100% honest. It's just something to keep an eye on. But when you have an all-wheel drive system, the exact diameter of your wheels has a lot to do with how your vehicle is going to react. So if you were to imagine what it would be like to have one wheel smaller than all the rest, just imagine. your vehicle's not going to run very well. So when one tire can be, say, 3 pounds under full, that changes the diameter. Now, one wheel is different size than all the rest, and on an all-wheel drive system, that can do a lot of damage. Sometimes you may find a green light on your dash with a foot and 2 brackets around each side, and all that means is that you have to depress the brake before you can shift gears. Well, I hope that helps. Thank you for watching, and if you have any more questions, just reach out, and any one of our great staff will help.
Galaxy Motors. If your credit's not the best, Galaxy Motors. We're different from the rest.